Hi, hello, my name is Benjamin Amat, and today we're going to be talking about Kane Parsons' A24 film, Backrooms. So, obviously, before I get into the movie, as always, please go watch it before you watch this video because this video will contain spoilers, and I also believe that you should watch a movie blind. Um, as in, you don't know anything before you go watch it. So, go watch it now. So let's start off with my Letterboxd review. So I actually just watched it. Literally, like, it ended an hour and a half ago. I just got back, and I should preface that I am, and oh boy, was it crazy watching this movie. Maybe that influenced my opinion on the movie. But anyways, so I watched it today, and my review, my review says, just got my back blown out in the back shot back rooms, and I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. So, yeah, I actually really liked it. As always, I did not see anything before watching this movie. I actually avoided all the trailers. I did see a lot of the promo because it's promo, but that's not going to give much away to the plot. But I did not watch the trailers at all. Even like when I went to go watch Hokum, a trailer for Backrooms showed up, and I literally went like this because I did not want to know anything about the movie. That's why I went on opening night. So, yeah, I went in knowing absolutely nothing, and I am so happy that I did. I obviously knew stuff about the Backrooms before because of the online phenomenon, whatever about it, because it was a pretty big thing. And that sort of boosted analog horror. And if you don't know me, I love analog horror so much. I even have an analog horror short film on here that is inspired by Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared and the Mandela catalogs. I was familiar with the Backrooms, but and I knew that there was a game, and I knew that there was so much lore about it, but I didn't dive into it so much. I knew the premise of it, of people being like, this looks like a room that I've seen before, but it's like, I know I haven't, or it just feels like unnerving. It's that uncanny feeling. And uncanny basically is like a sort of unexplainable thing, phenomenon, based off of our like reality's physics, if that makes sense. It is like a very interesting world to dive into, and I think it was very successful in what it aimed to do. So let's talk about my pros. So right off the bat, I want to talk about the cinematography because oh my goodness, I loved it. I loved it. It does this. I like the first thing that I noticed was the camera lens. I don't know, and it's not even like a full 0.5 kind of like thing, and it's not really like a fisheye lens. It's just a wide lens, or that sort of warps it a smidge, right? I don't know how to explain it. It's just I think it fits this movie very well. It adds to the tone very, very well. It has like a lot of like I think inspiration for its cinematography from like video games because it feels like you're playing a video game. And I think it's all of the POV shots, but it's not just like the POV shots of the camera, like the camcorder. It's also the POV shots of just like the actors in general. It just looks like a video game. The way that it moves, the way that it looks, because video games, it's sort of warped also, and they did that effect on this. It was just very effective. I think it added to the liminal space kind of feel and also the uncanny feeling that they aim to do, because it looks normal, but something's slightly off, and I think that like it all fit in with the whole uncanny theme. Um, so yeah, it reminded me of that. I also loved all the camcorder stuff. It reminded me of the Blair Witch Project. Oh, I wanted to mention the sort of like video game like visuals. It reminded me a lot of that one scene from Barbarian with Justin Long's character where his arms are out and it looks so like warped. It reminded me of that. And then also the analog horror sort of camcorder visuals, it reminded me a lot of the Blair Witch Project. Obviously, that was probably a big inspiration. And I think it was very effective, not only to the analog horror aspect, but also to the horror of it, to make it scarier, to build that suspense that like POV shots have, where it's like you are viewing this from the character's eyes. So if there's something over here, they can't see it. But once they turn that camera, you're gonna see it too when they see it, and it's a big shablam, you know? Oh my god, I'm actually so high right now. Anyways, so that was the cinematography part. I also wanted to talk about the acting was amazing. It was very convincing, and I think that like there's a lot of monologues in this movie, and they're just so good. It's just like the emotion in them, the like uncomfortable, especially from Clark. He played his character very well when he like after he spent some time in the back rooms. His acting in it was just so like oh my god, like actually so like chills. Like it's very, very unnerving, which was what they wanted to do in the first place. That's the tone that they aimed to do. I think also this movie does a good job in explaining what the backrooms are to people who possibly don't know anything about them from the 2020 craze about them. I wrote down here, I said, I went in not knowing much of the backrooms, just that it was a big weird like phenomenon in the 2020s. People had like a huge hyperfixation on it, and I dabbled in it a bit, but I found interest in other ARGs more during that time and other sort of like analog horror stuff. So I didn't really get into the backrooms that much during that time. I was more focused on like the the Mandela catalogs. I think I also loved the Sun Vanish. That was a very cool ARG. But anyways, so I said I didn't really know much about it. I only knew the general sense of it. I knew it, but I didn't basically. So I went in not knowing the laws of the back room, what the explanation is to it, what the meaning of the space is. I didn't really understand. Like I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know any of that. Like the lore of it, basically. I didn't know like that part. But I think that the movie does a good job in explaining it. The memory that's sort of distorted because you keep moving, like you keep making more memories basically, and you keep trying to remember past things, it becomes more and more distorted. Obviously, you still remember it to a certain extent, but it's not perfect. And I think that they do a good job. Like, it's a very good explanation of what the backrooms are. Like the whole dog thing that they were saying, I was like, oh, actually, that's very true. Like, it's literally like it won't look accurate. It'll look similar, but it won't look exactly the same, not all the way there. And it's just a very interesting way on how they explain the sort of laws and understandings of the backrooms. It added a like, oh, okay, like, okay, I get that part. I get that part. So, but I think that also because it's an analog horror movie and like there are so many other ARGs that maybe it was inspired by or like whatever. So I think that it does pay homage to some of them. I think the first one that I immediately noticed, I don't know if they actually did want to pay homage to them, but Candle Cove was one of them with the whole pirate theme. I think it was just like maybe something like maybe a little like nod to it. I think also the Mandela catalog with the visuals of the people. I think maybe, but also those like that does fit into analog horror or like uncanny horror in general, like a face that doesn't look all the way there. I think Mandela Catalog might have been like a reference point for those visuals, but I think maybe, hopefully. I just really I like the idea that the director of this wanted to pay homage to other ARGs. So like there's Candle Cove, Mandela Catalogs. I think that was like the only ones that I listed down. But you get what I mean, right? Hopefully. Anyways, let's get to my cons. So I actually said not much. I didn't say much, actually. I only have 2 points here. And that's because I actually really like the movie. So the one, my first point says the monster was a bit goofarella. It did look a bit stupid to me. Sorry, it did. It's the reason why is if you compare the big Clark monster to the like little like the 3 people that Clark found in the back rooms, those people are just so much scarier than the actual big bad monster that is like terrorizing the place. And maybe there's a deeper message to it. I didn't really catch it. And that is my other con. Maybe it is because I am fried right now. Maybe it is because my mind is not working right now. But I really could not connect the story together. I didn't really know. I know that there is this deep message, but let me tell you, I am not great with those. Especially ones from A24. A24 loves to do this sort of like ambiguous, you kind of have to connect the dots yourself movies. I think it's a great way of telling stories. I think it is very innovative and very effective and very cool and creative. I just sometimes cannot wrap my head around it because A24 does it so much that it's just like, I think that they're like, okay, what else can we do? Well, like, let's make it more ambiguous and more like allegorical. And I think that like we've gotten to a point where it's a bit repetitive now, and I'm just like, maybe it's just me and my high brain, and I don't understand it because I'm a stupid dinky. But like, I actually did not like, I couldn't click it together. I couldn't connect the dots and be like, oh, her childhood trauma connects with his wife and her being like a therapist and like all this I maybe I am just a dummy, and I think I definitely need to watch like review videos about it to get a better understanding of it, but as for now I do not understand it. Okay, hi, this is editing Benjamin Ahmad. So I actually did some research on the movie. It's been a couple days now. It's Sunday, May 31st, and I have my notes right here. So, my first one was talking about how Clark's backroom journey resembles his avoidance of his own problems. He drags everyone down with him, literally, and that's the whole thing with like the conversation that he had with his therapist in the back rooms, where she was like, you are just so like, you can't deal with your problems, dude. And that is literally what the back rooms is a manifestation of. Him basically, he has all of these things going on in his life, and he chooses to ignore all of them to focus on this alternate reality. Say, it's basically just being avoidant of your own problems. So Clark's monster is also a symbol, obviously. I put down, I said, Clark's monster is mixed with memory and mental health issues, lol. Yeah, so his monster is basically a manifestation of Clark in his true form. Yeah, I said, the backrooms will recreate what enters. So the Clark monster is basically a manifestation of Clark's true self, who he truly is, a bitch, lol. And then I also have, for the deeper message, AI commentary. I got this idea from a YouTuber. His YouTube name's like Cooper. Cooper mentioned it And it's a good theory, actually. The Backrooms copies reality, a simulacra, basically. This movie fits perfectly with Jean Baudrillard's theories on simulacra and simulacrum. The Backrooms is a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. And if you don't know who Jean Baudrillard is, he's this, like, theorist, whatever. He has this whole, like, idea of simulacrum, where it's the Matrix, basically. I'm pretty sure the Matrix was inspired by his theories, and I think that this one fits perfectly into that, with the whole alternate reality that is a copy of the original, and then it is a copy of that copy and a copy of that copy. Like, those rooms that keep going down, I have it in the intro for this video. That is basically what, like, the simulacra is, where it is a copy of a copy, and it just keeps sort of altering in a way that differs from the original, but is still a copy of that. So yeah, I actually thought about that one from my classes, actually. I learned about Jean Baudrillard a lot in my film classes because I studied the movie The Matrix. So it's a very cool theory. I highly suggest that you look into that. And after you look into that theory, it's actually interesting to go watch the movie again, knowing that stuff. So I think I want to go rewatch it. Maybe when it comes on streaming, or like somewhere I can find it. But like, yeah, it's a very cool theory. I think it fits perfectly with the movie. Maybe the director took inspiration from that, but I do think that the Backrooms is a resemblance of Clark's sort of mental avoidance and problems and issues. I like that theory, and then I also like just like studying it from a studious point of view, where you can relate Jean Baudrillard's theories to it. So this has been Editing Benjamin Amat. Goodbye. Anyways, let's move on from that. Those were basically my cons. I wanted to add a new thing into these because I'm doing a lot more horror. So I wanted to put a horror level section. Yes, horror level. So basically this like section will basically be me saying how scary the movie is. I know a lot of like my friends, every time they like ask me if I've seen this movie, they're always like, oh, is it scary? And there is a type of scary in a lot of movies where it's like you're haunted and you cannot go to sleep that night. But then there's like other movies where it's just like, whatever. And like, I think for this one, it's not haunting. It's not haunting for me. Maybe for others, because of the liminal spaces, it can cause that like sort of uncanny feeling where you feel uncomfortable. Though that's not a scary fear, or it's not that fear feeling, you know what I mean? It's like a whole different thing. Maybe that's like what they were aiming to do, to like make people uncomfortable rather than scared. But there are like a lot of horror elements. There's the chase scenes, which are very, very good, very like ooh, you know. What did I write down? I said I give it points for having that sort of edging horror, where they like build up to something and then like it takes a really long time to build up, and it builds that sort of like nervous feeling that they want you to have throughout a lot of the movie, and it's been done very well. I wrote down here, it says the one like Skinamarink only done good. So, Skinamarink wanted to have that edging feeling, but it was a boring movie. This one, it's interesting enough to hold your attention so that you have to watch it. So it gives you that sort of like edging, like, ooh, when's it gonna happen? So I give it points for that. I give it points for the gore. I give it points for the remembered people. Their like visuals were very scary. The POV shots of the camcorder, very Blair Witch Project, and it makes it more terrifying. And then I have this big point. I said, it's hauntingly horrifying, but in its own unique way. The sliver of Clark's scare from the doorway was such a clever scene. It works for this film because you spend the whole movie just staring at this wallpaper that any imperfection is identifiable immediately. So the sliver of his arm was such a smart way to scare the audience in a unique way for this movie. You know what I mean? It's like, because we spend the entire movie looking at this ass wallpaper, we remember it. So by the time that we see some slight imperfection in it, we can catch it right away. And that's why I think his scare, where he was just in the doorway a little bit, was so good. It was so good. And very, very smart for this movie and its setting. Just so smart. I really like that scare. So for that, I gave the movie a 6.4 out of 10 on a horror level, because it has its elements, but it's not gonna freak you out too much where you're like, I have to go, I don't want to watch this no more. So yes. That's basically it. It's a very good movie. I highly recommend it. But I have my epilogue portion written out. I said, good movie, but I wouldn't recommend it to general audiences. No shade, but I think it's a bit too A24 for everyone. And when I think about that, I think about like, oh, my family members who are not super into movies like I am, would they enjoy this movie? And I don't think so. I do not think that they would. Some of them didn't really care for like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Some of them just can't really get into those like vibes. And I get it, it's not for everybody. And I feel like this movie is like that. I think that it's not for every single general audience ever. It's not going to hit everybody. Like with Obsession, I think that movie, I would recommend that to anybody because it's such a sort of universally like, it hit you with like classic scares and classic stuff by also like being unique and innovative enough to recommend to everybody by being like, this is such a good movie, you should go watch it. With this one, it's very innovative and it's very like cool and does analog horror very well, but I would recommend it to people who like analog horror or people who like A24 movies, not people like the general audiences. No shade. I think it's a very good movie. It's just that I wouldn't recommend it to everybody. Maybe that's a bad opinion, but I mean, it's my opinion, so you. So, yeah, that's about it. This horror one run was so fun. I did The Mummy, I did Obsession, Hokum, and then Backrooms. What am I gonna do next? I don't know. I really hope that I do more horror because I love it so much. This is my safe haven. This is my baby. I love just watching horror movies. So yeah. So anyways, goodbye.